So every week at 11, after the 11 o'clock news, we take a look at how much things should cost, from the cup of coffee to tutoring for your son. And this week, we take a look at renovations, kitchen upgrades, bathroom remodels, new floors, fresh paint. Renovations can transform your home, but I'm also hearing that they can also drain your bank account, and the prices have been going up. So let's talk about small weekend projects to full-scale makeovers. How much should you be spending? And a man who's got the answers is Walter Assi. He's president at Renovco and host of the Home Improvement Show every Saturday at 9 on CJD. Walter, you're the man. You're in studio again.
I am in studio.
Thank you.
I would not miss a chance to see you in person. You know that.
I love that, and I appreciate that because, by the way, you in person, just spectacular. Good-looking man is what I'm trying to say to our listeners. All right, Walter, one of the things I always ask on this segment, whether it's coffee or whatever we're talking about, the first question is usually, do you get what you pay for? So when you're doing renovations, like, you know, do you really get more at $10,000 than $5,000 or vice versa, materials, that kind of stuff? Do you get what you pay for when it comes to renovations?
So if a renovation is done right, absolutely. And there are certain things that you will get a lot more than what you pay for. The main issue that you see is that most of the times renovations are not done right. So people kind of start from the back rather than from the front. They don't do a master plan. And the whole way things are initiated sometimes, the whole approach is wrong. Because they come into a project saying how much it's going to cost. They don't spec the project to what they want and then ask for prices. So if you're going to go to a showroom and tell the salesman, I want the cheapest possible car, chances are you're not going to get what you want. You're going to get cheap price, but it's not going to take you very far. So same thing with renovation. I mean, look, there are certain renovations that we say they're intelligent renovations because they do pay you back in dividends. And
when you sell, right, you're adding value to your home, right, if you do the right renovation.
Absolutely. So, for example, a kitchen, a bathroom, that's a no-brainer. That is what the first thing people look at because they are typically the most expensive and the most complicated jobs to do in a home. There are certain investments that don't make as much sense, which we call buried money. So things that you are investing in infrastructure. You can tell a potential buyer, I changed all my foundations in the house.
Nobody cares.
You know what? Great, you have a great, but you know, where do I see this? Like it doesn't. So there are certain things, not that I'm saying it's not important to fix your foundation, but the cosmetic and tap-edge things come first.
Because it's a given, right? Like, well, of course, you're trying to take credit for having a good foundation. Well, it's a house, it should have a good foundation, right? Like people take that for granted on compared to other things.
Exactly. So curb appeal is important. Kitchens are important. Bathrooms are important. Typically, a good kitchen renovation, a smart kitchen renovation that's done with taste, will actually make your money, believe it or not.
Now, going back to the budget, because I understand why people would say, and they'd come to you, and they'd say, I want to spend $10,000. Like, and I understand why they would have to be locked in on that, on like a price first, right? Because at the end of the day, they probably can't afford the 15 or the 20 or the 25, right? So, but I also get your point at how that's probably not the right way to start the project. So how do you do both? Like, how do you keep budget in mind, but also start from like the proper concept of getting something proper, like something nice?
So as long as you know what you're getting for your money. So most of the time you won't even know what you're getting for the money because everything is going to be hidden under the rug so they can get the job, right? So that's why speccing is important. That's why coming forward and saying, okay, what is 10,000 going to get me? And this is what I'm looking for. For example, if you are in that house for a year and you're staging to sell it, it's a totally different conversation you're having with your contractor. Be honest with your contractor. If you're there for 10 years, then you want it to look good in 10 years, so you make your money back on it. So putting an inferior product is not going to get you there, right? So that's going to be money wasted. So this is how we kind of make the balance. I mean, like from our standpoint, for example, we manufacture, right? So I have the good, I have the bad, and I have the ugly. And I have a client for each one. But as long as they know that this is what they're getting, depending on what they're doing with that, right? If you are a developer and you have 200 condos and you just want a basic entry point kitchen, well, That's understandable because that you're doing this for profit.
Can we talk a second about materials, right? Because I hear one of the reasons why the cost of everything's going up, cost of renovations would be going up, is because the sheer cost of materials has gone up. What do you view as materials where, how would I put this? Like materials that are worth it versus materials that are pricey and you're like, man, at the end of the day, not worth it. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So there are certain materials that don't last long, but they're priced right. So these are materials for us because we know the progress of it or what's going to happen or the if you want the period of decay for these materials. Typically, these types of materials are not worth a penny that you spend. Unless you're in it for a very, very, very short time. You are flipping the house, you want to renovate it today and sell it tomorrow, and you're selling it without legal warranty, and. Yeah. These are typically the first thing that I would look at, and I will kind of dismiss from the equation.
Gotcha. And then what are the materials that you're like, you know what, you can never go wrong?
So anything that, it's like you going and buying a $5 tie, and then going and buying a $50 tie.
Yeah.
Or a $100 tie.
Yeah.
You see the difference, right? So that for us, like, especially when you have a trained eyes, like someone that is a specialist and he looks at something and he knows when it's done cheaply and when, So these typically for us, we see them in 5 years and we're still impressed. We see them in 8 years and we're still impressed. We see them in 10 years and we're still impressed. These are usually the materials, like, for example, cabinets. You have different types of cabinets in the same quality, right? So looking at the type A, type B, type C, trained eye will see it, untrained eye not necessarily that much. But
type A, type B, type C, you're talking about price points?
Price points, or it's more the component or the composite that makes up the material to make it a good quality, a bad quality. So take a Louis Vuitton bag and take a knockoff. That's pretty much what you're talking about.
Gotcha. So even though, and those little features like the handles, right? And that's something I can notice, right? Even for a guy like me, I notice when I open up a cabinet and it's like, oh, this is a cheap handle, or this is something that has some cost, and it's a little thing, but it adds to
good quality suit, and then you put a cheap belt.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. Exactly right. Now, listen, for this segment, sometimes it's easy where you say, okay, how much should a coffee cost? $4, right? Now, it's hard for me to say, well, to ask you, like, how much should something like a renovation cost? Because there's so many different factors. But how do you view it, like square footage? I mean, I have a text message here from a listener who's like, hey, I have a question, because I know you get a lot of questions. And they're like, installment per square foot for porcelain ceramic tiled floor. They want to know what's a good price on that front.
That is a great question. But again, it boils down to many things. So a good installer will not give you a price necessarily only by square foot. He will ask the right questions. What is the size of the tile? Yeah. So that makes a difference. Are we installing a D-trim membrane? So what's underneath the subfloor? That's another question. I'm going to actually, that's important because, a lot of times we see a homeowner getting hooked into a price per square foot and then getting charged a whole bunch of extras later. A good contractor asks all the details ahead of time. The size of the tile matters. What are we doing to the subfloor matters? So a lot of time they demolish. Oh, your subfloor is in terrible condition. Well, of course it isn't terrible. It's 50 years old, right? Yeah. So why didn't you factor that in at the beginning? Are we installing a DTRA? Are we leveling the floor? These are things that are going to factor in. But if it's just a kind of a new construction, let's say you're coming in, it's a 24 by 24 regular tile or 1224, you're talking about $5 to $7 a square foot. But that's, again, straight new construction. But it can go all the way up to $22, $24 a square foot.
Wow. Well, you see that, what a disparity. Huh?
Voila. Exactly.
Interesting.
But I mean, again, a good contractor will explain you all the steps that it takes. Not you're coming in and bringing, if it's a new build, 100%, it's easy.
So in order to make sure you're getting a good price, right? And you said the right contractor's asking the right question. Should you get multiple quotes? Is that just like, for our listeners here to wrap up, like to make sure they're getting a good price, what do you do?
So 9 out of 10 times I look at the different quotes and then I have, believe it or not, more questions than answers. It's a bit like the Epstein files. Okay.
Zing. Yeah.
So you look at the estimates. The way they are, if you want the right estimate, and you're not going to do that, but it's almost you have an architecture plan or designer's plan. It's spec'd, so everything is really so you can compare apples with apples. So every single action is done. The idea is, yes, you can and you should, but it's also a question of how the estimate is constructed. I'll give you an example. This Saturday we got a caller that was looking for a new furnace. She's asking for estimates. The guy gave her an estimate, and she told him that you're looking for many companies. So he gave her an estimate not to change the furnace, but to retrofit the furnace that she has. It's going to be the cheapest guy, right?
Yeah, because it's a retrofit.
Yeah, because in his head, she wants price. I'm going to give her price. This is not really how it should go. So if you are going for that, you have to really educate yourself what you're bidding on and to compare that these guys are not playing the fast ones. Because in our business, unfortunately, in the renovation construction business, there's a lot of hidden factors. So extras are the big sellers for contractors.
And what happens when you pull up a floor or take down a wall? You never know what's going to be there.
Well, you can if you're a good contractor. You have the equipment, you have the technology, and if people are not using it, either it's because they don't have it, which is a problem, or because they don't want to right away show their cards, which is a bigger problem.
Walter, I'm going to encourage all of our listeners, if they have specific questions, to make sure they're tuning in on the weekends, Saturday at 9 when you're doing the home improvement show. You're such a tremendous resource for our listeners here at CJD. I appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you so much, Elias.
Walter Assi is the president at Renovco.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years. And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.